It all began with a single red moon appearing in the sky, and soon after, chaos consumed the world. The earth was then swallowed whole as disasters struck one after another like a relentless flood. Following that, demonic beasts finally emerged, and giant monsters rose like a destructive tide. Flames and smoke filled the air, plunging the world into absolute despair. The landscape was a grim sight of fallen soldiers and scorched fields. The war against the demons raged on for 100 years. In the end, humanity claimed victory, but the cost was far too great to celebrate. Facing a scene of utter devastation, our protagonist wonders if any of it held meaning. With a look of pure hatred, he screams that everyone is gone, with no one left to tell their story. In that moment, he remembers his comrades, his sister, and everyone he had ever known and loved. All of them were sacrificed to defeat the beasts, so he refuses to call this a victory. The source of all this calamity stood right before him, the Demon King, Sirius Patrick. The Demon Lord was impressed that the hero had fought until his magic was completely drained. With a wicked grin, the Demon King congratulates Xavier Benedict on his victory but warns that this is not the end. The demon adds that his kind will return, and Xavier yells for him to be quiet before charging forward. He lunges with all his might to finish off the villain, but the Demon King simply smiles, saying they'll meet again. Xavier presses his attack with his sword, but the Demon King effortlessly dodges his strikes with beams of energy. Suddenly, a massive explosion of purple energy erupts right in front of the hero. From it, an energy core with an eye in its center materializes, floating before him. This was the Demon King's core, the very source of all his magical power. Xavier grabs the core, thinking that by destroying it, the demon could never revive. But the object erupts with magic, and he remembers that the friends who once protected him are now gone. As the purple energy engulfs him, the hero realizes this is his final moment. The swordsman then laments his inability to cast even a single spell. He reflects that if he had even a little magical talent, perhaps he could have changed the outcome. Tears stream down his face as he accepts that all his battles have finally come to an end. This marked the end of a great hero who had fought so bravely for everyone. And so, humanity's champion, the legendary swordsman Xavier Benedict, fell in combat. In his last moments, he is filled with regret as a red flower appears before him. The flower begins to glow brilliantly, and he wonders if he could have altered his destiny. A blinding light envelops everything, and the young man questions if he could have changed that tragic ending. Suddenly, a voice offers congratulations on the birth of a healthy baby boy in a humble home. At this, our hero opens his eyes in confusion, wondering how he's still alive when he should be gone. A woman then calls to a man named Andrew, announcing that the baby has finally opened his eyes. They are Xavier's parents, and his mother notes that he looks just like his father, hoping he won't be as irritating. He is stunned to recognize his parents, wondering how he, a 26-year-old, was just born. The father thanks his wife for delivering such a cute baby, but she just calls him a sweet talker. In that instant, he knows this isn't a dream. He has truly traveled 26 years into the past. Xavier, now reborn with his memories intact, grew up much faster than other children. At 1 year old, he was already on his feet, and by 2, he was training relentlessly. His sole objective was to wield a sword as soon as possible to grow stronger. Now, at 3 years of age, Xavier Benedict was determined to surpass his former self. His mother warns him not to overdo his training, but he insists he must complete over 6,000 swings. His father, beaming with pride, tells her to let the boy train, certain he'll become a great swordsman. But suddenly, little Xavier loses his grip on his wooden sword during practice. With that, his training weapon goes flying and lands in a nearby bush. The sword gets caught on a branch, and the boy chuckles, thinking the road to the top will be a long one. He runs to retrieve it, but his father teases him, saying he'll never reach it. Little Xavier jumps, trying to grab the weapon, but complains that his child's body is too frail. With fierce determination, he thinks that there's no time to waste. He can't repeat the mistakes of the past. His eyes flare with intensity, knowing his regression would be meaningless if he fails now. Just then, a golden ore envelopes his hand, and with a shout, he summons the sword back to him. The wooden sword begins to glow, flying at high speed directly toward the young boy. In a surprisingly stylish move, he catches the weapon with his mouth. His parents are left completely speechless by what they just witnessed. His mother rushes to his side, asking what just happened, and Xavier thinks to himself that he merely wished for the sword to come to him. His father, bursting with pride, calls him a magical genius, the first in their family to awaken such power. His mother hugs him tightly, overjoyed, exclaiming she always knew her beloved son was a prodigy. The boy is bewildered, as he shouldn't have any magical talent, and wonders if he somehow absorbed the Demon King's power. A bit jealous, his father says he wants a turn holding him and scoops him up. He lifts him high into the air, declaring that from this day forward, Xavier will be the mightiest magic swordsman ever. Xavier sees this second chance as a sign and vows to save the world and rewrite the future. 9 years pass since the boy awakened his incredible ability to manipulate magic. Rain or shine, his routine remains unchanged, 5,000 sword swings every single day in the forest. Only after hitting this mark does he allow himself a brief moment of relief. He pushes himself relentlessly because he knows the Demon King Sirius is merely waiting for a chance to strike. Now 12 years old, Xavier Benedict is certain the villain is just biding his time to destroy the world. The vision of that horrific moment remains burned into his mind, serving as his daily motivation. With his eyes glowing gold, he swears he will absolutely annihilate the Demon King. With a powerful cry, the boy unleashes a potent energy attack that shoots forward in a straight line. Its power is so immense that it completely obliterates a massive tree in its path. His resolve is forged in his heart and in every single swing of his sword. After finishing his grueling training, he pauses to catch his breath and considers his next move. He decides to review the beginner magic he studied from his book the day before. This is why he always practices magic alone, deep in the forest where no one can observe him. Since he mastered water magic yesterday, today he will attempt a more powerful fire spell. With a grin, he decides to test his new fire magic just to gauge its power. Suddenly, a colossal explosion of flames erupts, and the force throws the boy backward. The spell tears through the forest like a beam of light, incinerating everything in its path. The attack then slams into a mountain with full force, causing a cataclysmic explosion. Xavier is left utterly stunned by the incredible power he just accidentally unleashed. He stares at the mountain where a gaping hole now sits, his jaw hanging open in disbelief. In a panic, he shouts that he had no idea the power gap between spells was so enormous. But after the initial shock wears off, he takes a moment to assess the situation. A confident smile spreads across his face as he realizes that possessing this much power isn't so bad. He suddenly remembers it's getting late and that he needs to hurry home before his mother starts to worry. On his way back, he overhears some villagers complaining that the nobles from Bone Castle are coming for an inspection. An elderly man grumbles that they pay their taxes on time and shouldn't be bothered like this. Another man chimes in that the nobles are disgusting and the burden of war always falls on the poor. Our hero walks through town, greeting everyone he passes with a bright smile. He stops to talk to a baker, who jokes that he wishes his own grandson were as diligent as Xavier. Xavier recalls Count Jim Claus and his butler, remembering them as cowardly traitors who fled the war. He stretches and thinks to himself that it was because of incompetent nobles like them that humanity nearly lost. Abruptly, a horse forcefully kicks a barrel of apples, scattering them all over the ground. The vendors scramble in desperation over the spilled fruit, while the knight on the horse shows no concern for the chaos. The soldier then yells at the merchant to get out of the way, instead of offering to help the poor man. Without a second thought, the guard strikes the man, who is only trying to gather his fruit, with a whip. The vendor collapses in pain as the knight's horse tramples over his goods. Witnessing this injustice, Xavier becomes enraged, his eyes flaring with a bluish aura. Moments later, a grand procession of knights clatters into town, making a noisy entrance. Leading the group is a blue-haired boy, who appears to be the son of someone important. This is Aniclimax, the 10-year-old son of the count, who has come for the inspection with his father. With an arrogant sneer, the noble boy scans the crowd, looking for a target to amuse himself. His gaze locks onto a mother and her young daughter, who are cowering in fear nearby. Xavier watches from a distance, wondering what the spoiled young noble has planned. Dismounts his horse and strides toward the woman's stall, picking up a loaf of bread. The noble boy asks for the price, but the frightened vendor tells him he can have it for free. The count's son scoffs, declaring that as a protector of the town, he must abide by the rules. He then tosses a handful of coins at the woman and demands she give him change. The vendor grows frantic at the amount of money, insisting he can take as many loaves as he likes. The noble then makes a vile proposition, suggesting she let her daughter come play with him. The onlookers pity the little girl, knowing that a terrible fate likely awaits her. Seeing this, Xavier sighs, deciding he can no longer stand by and do nothing. A blue tiger-like aura surrounds him as he wonders if he should teach this brat a lesson himself. The guards close in on the mother and daughter, while our hero observes from behind his stall. He considers drawing his sword to end the situation but hesitates at the last moment. Xavier realizes that revealing himself so openly would draw too much attention and cause trouble for his parents. Besides, he reminds himself he has a far more critical mission than getting into petty squabbles. An idea then strikes him. He muses on how useful magic is in moments like these, since no one knows he can wield it. With a plan forming, he decides to have a little fun with the foolish young master and leaps between the rooftops. Our hero lands silently on a roof, ready to put his plan into motion. From his vantage point, he calculates the perfect distance to ensure a clean escape if he's discovered. He concentrates a sphere of water in his hands, preparing to strike the spoiled noble. Down below, the noble boy asks the girl if she's frightened, reminding her that he paid for the bread. With a malicious grin, he reaches for the little girl, who flinches away in terror. Her mother pleads for mercy, but the young master ignores her and proceeds with his plan. But before his hand can touch the girl, a hand made of water materializes and blocks his path, startling him. Suddenly, a massive torrent of water appears from thin air and begins to engulf the noble. The mother and daughter fall to the ground in shock as the boy is swallowed by the magical water. The guards erupt in panic, screaming for the young master, who is clearly in distress. The count's son is suspended in the air within a bubble of water, crying out for help. The boy screams at his guards, calling them useless and demanding they do something immediately. The little girl, confused by the scene, spots a hooded figure perched atop a nearby roof. From his perch, our protagonist masterfully controls the water magic, teaching the noble a harsh lesson. The hero then dispels the magic, and the boy plummets to the ground, unharmed but terrified. The little girl pretends she saw nothing, snuggling into her mother's embrace as if nothing had happened. On the roof, Xavier scoffs at the noble's weakness, noting he barely lasted 2 minutes. Suddenly, he notices something unusual happening below and focuses his attention on the scene. One of the guards yells for everyone to clear a path as a mysterious figure approaches the water bubble. It was an elderly mage named Habush who seemed to appear from nowhere, staff in hand, to save the day. With his staff ready, the mage points it toward the sphere of water and prepares to cast a spell. The water bubble bursts, and the noble boy is finally freed, tumbling toward the ground. The rich kid lands hard on his rear, and the guards rush in a panic to help the young master. But the remaining water morphs into 2 aquatic dragons that begin to circle the area menacingly. The old mage takes control of the spell, demonstrating that he is not to be trifled with. He then slams his staff onto the ground, unleashing a formidable amount of magical power. A golden aura explodes from the mage, completely dissipating the water dragons that surrounded him. From the rooftop, Xavier is dumbfounded by the old man's incredible power level. He watches the mage below, who seems to have resolved the entire situation with astonishing ease. The mage Habush stands in the middle of the street, a stern expression on his face. With his eyes glowing, he begins to scan the area for the person who cast the water spell. The mage looks directly toward the rooftop, appearing to have sensed our hero's presence. Meanwhile, the guards try to assist the young master, who is wailing in pain, and suggest taking him to a healer. But the spoiled noble shoves a guard away, screaming at him to let go and not to touch him. Utterly clueless, he accuses the vendor of using magic and threatens to have her thrown in a dungeon. Next, the boy points a finger at the little girl, screeching that she was the one who dared use magic on him. With pure fury in his eyes, the count's son rears back to strike the small child. However, the old mage catches his arm, stopping him from making an even graver mistake. Habush calmly warns him that the count will be furious, and the boy pales at the thought of his father's wrath. With his tail between his legs, the young noble finally backs down, saying he understands. The mage then beckons for him to leave, and the boy agrees to follow his master without another word. The two walk away, with the rest of the guards following closely behind, leaving the scene. But with a hateful glare, Un vows that this isn't over and that he will have his revenge. The scene shifts to the Benedict family enjoying a peaceful and harmonious dinner in their humble home. Our protagonist eats with gusto, clearly savoring the family meal. His parents discuss the arrival of the nobles, and his mother mentions the attack on the count's son. His father chuckles, saying they ought to thank whoever was responsible for what happened to the young noble. The protagonist's younger sister, Helena, adds that the culprit was a water mage. With a suspicious glance, she asks her brother if it was him, causing Xavier to nearly choke on his food. He quickly deflects, saying he wouldn't dare, and that he spent the whole morning training in the forest. The mother chides her daughter for studying at the dinner table and takes her book away. She insists that her daughter must eat first, only then can she attend her lessons. Helena looks a bit disappointed but agrees with her mother, admitting she finds her school classes boring anyway. The father complains about the tax collection but concedes that Count Klaus is still one of the better nobles. The mother places a serving of meat on her daughter's plate, reminding her to eat every last bite. The father then challenges Xavier to a sparring session, but his son immediately turns him down. The father gets indignant, boasting that he was a great swordsman whose help was sought by many. Xavier replies that he'll be spending the afternoon studying and advises his father to train his mind as well. The father is left speechless by his son's sharp retort, while the mother simply laughs at the exchange. Helena then asks to study alongside her brother, and he gently pulls her aside to speak with her. The protagonist reminds her that she is school and needs to focus on her studies to create a special remedy for him. Helena lights up with excitement, promising to go to school and study hard so she can be useful to her brother. Xavier then recalls his sister's incredible talent for magical medicine and her immense dedication. In his past life, at only 16 years old, she had become the head apothecary of Bone Castle. But in the second year after he became an imperial knight, she was ambushed by demons. The girl was on the verge of creating a cure for a deadly virus, and her passing triggered a massive pandemic. With this painful memory fresh in his mind, the protagonist vows that this time, he will protect his sister at all costs. Meanwhile, at the Klaus family mansion, the atmosphere was anything but pleasant for young Un. The boy receives a sharp slap across the face from his father, who is clearly livid about his spoiled behavior. Un bursts into tears, asking his father why he would strike him so suddenly and without warning. Count Klaus reveals that Un was incredibly rude to the mage Habush, an act he deems unacceptable. The spoiled noble flies into a rage, shouting that his father hit him over a mere bodyguard. The Count's fury intensifies, and he calls his own son a complete disgrace to their family name. He then demands to know if the boy has any idea what it takes to maintain the status of a true noble. The power of a great archmage like Habush is far greater than all the family's guards combined. The mage is a guardian deity to their house, and the count declares he could have countless sons, but never another habush. The count then coldly states that he can simply make another son at any time, leaving the boy utterly speechless. Humiliated and enraged, the young master storms out of the room, sobbing. The butler moves to follow, but the count stops him, saying his son needs time to reflect. Running through the streets, the spoiled noble fumes that his father sided with a stranger over his own flesh and blood. He places all the blame on the mysterious mage and swears he will find him and make him pay dearly. The boy screams that the mysterious mage should watch his back, because he will get his revenge no matter what. Shifting scenes, we see the little girl who was saved earlier standing by a tree, holding a basket. She appears to be waiting for someone and breaks into a warm smile upon seeing him approach. Our protagonist walks up and calls her by name, Cecily looking slightly surprised to see her. The girl thanks him for his help earlier, but our hero immediately plays dumb. He panics internally, wondering if she was always this sharp, even as a child. As a token of her gratitude, the young girl offers him a basket filled with fresh fruit. Xavier accepts the gift, and she promises not to tell anyone that he can wield both a sword and magic. In exchange for her silence, she excitedly asks to see his abilities up close. The boy is flustered, realizing there's absolutely no way to fool Cecily. Xavier then remembers Cecily Stella, his childhood friend and a phenomenal swordswoman from his past. However, just before the war ended, she was struck down by the Demon King, leaving the protagonist to fight on alone. Back in the present, the girl eagerly asks him to show her his powers, and he's disarmed by her adorable persistence. He agrees to demonstrate his skills, but tells her they need to find a more secluded spot. The scene then fades to night, with a full moon shining brightly in the sky. Elsewhere, in the middle of a dark forest, someone is punching a tree with furious force. The punches belong to Ein, who is seething and questioning if the Major Bush is truly that powerful. The spoiled noble unleashes his rage on the tree, trying to vent his frustration. But he quickly regrets it, crying out in pain as his hand throbs from the impact. He whines that his father is a coward, and that nobles shouldn't have to care about commoners. He suddenly stops his whimpering, realizing he's completely and utterly lost. Looking up at the sky, the boy spots a bizarre creature in flight and feels a shiver run down his spine. The monster lands with a heavy thud right behind him, and the boy freezes in terror, unable to move. The creature, its eyes glowing red, lunges at the noble, who lets out a desperate scream for his life. With no way to defend himself, the boy is sent flying by the force of the creature's attack. The noble boy lies on the ground, groaning in pain after being thrown by the strange creature. But as he looks up, he is absolutely horrified by what he sees before him. A gargantuan, one-eyed magical beast is staring him down, and he has no idea how it got there. With a bloodthirsty snarl, the creature bares its teeth and prepares for another strike. The spoiled noble screams for the creature to stay back, but the beast pays him no mind. Terrified, he squeezes his eyes shut, crying that he doesn't want to meet such a gruesome end. But suddenly, a mysterious hand yanks him by the collar, pulling him out of the monster's path. The boy is thrown aside just in the nick of time, narrowly escaping the creature's charge. Ein, completely bewildered, turns to see who just saved him from certain doom. He then realizes it was our protagonist who stepped in to shield him from the monster. Hiding behind a tree, the noble wonders if that boy truly just saved his life. With a look of grim determination, Xavier declares that the magical beast will not be leaving this place alive. He finds it strange, as this area is only 20 minutes from town and should be clear of monsters. A sense of dread creeps in as he wonders if the demons have already begun their assault on humanity. The creature lets out a deafening roar and prepares to attack our hero with its full might. The monster slams its claws into the ground, and our hero braces himself for the impending battle. The creature charges at the protagonist, its razor-sharp claws poised to strike. With nimble agility, Xavier dodges the blows, and the fight against the magical beast truly begins. He manages to evade the creature's relentless attacks while trying to formulate a plan. The protagonist leaps backward, readying himself for the giant monster's next move. He recognizes that a normal sword won't even scratch this creature. He needs a new strategy. Xavier parries another blow, mentally thanking himself for his rigorous training. With a clever feint, he dodges one more attack, continuing to search for an opening. From a safe distance, the spoiled noble and Cecily watch the fight, and the girl yells for him to be careful. Xavier considers using magic, but then remembers the Count's son is still watching. He trusts Cecily, but he knows the spoiled noble could cause serious problems if his secret got out. The boy also questions whether he could even defeat a monster of this caliber with his current magical skill, but he steels his resolve, telling himself he cannot fear a magical beast of this level. Xavier decides that to face an opponent like this, he'll have to channel some of his mana. This is the first monster he's fought in this new life, but he's faced countless horrors in his past one. The protagonist charges forward, sword in hand, ready to meet the creature head-on. The monster lashes out with its claws, but Xavier manages to dodge and counter with a swift sword strike. With a determined glare, he tells himself that even without mana, he can still fight on equal footing. His sword begins to glow intensely as he prepares for the final blow against the magical beast. He then shouts that he would never lose to a monster like this and unleashes a powerful slash. The attack strikes the creature's chest dead on, and it bellows in pain from the impact. With a single decisive strike, our hero manages to defeat the giant monster once and for all. From behind, the spoiled noble's jaw drops as he exclaims that the boy actually defeated the magical beast. The protagonist's sword falls to the ground, and he drops to one knee to catch his breath. Panting heavily, Xavier rests as the dust from the battle slowly begins to settle. Cecily runs to him worried and asks if he's alright after the intense struggle. He reassures her that he's just a bit tired but wasn't injured during the fight. With a confident smile, the protagonist declares that this time, he will protect everyone. The pair then turn and notice that the spoiled noble is still there, observing them. Un suddenly screams for them to look behind them, his face a mask of pure panic. Incredibly, the magical beast rises to its feet as if nothing had happened, shocking everyone. The creature's wounds begin to regenerate at an astonishingly fast rate. The protagonist and Cecily are stunned, murmuring that what they're seeing is impossible. Xavier immediately yells for Cecily to run as fast as she can while he holds the monster off. The girl refuses to leave, insisting she can't abandon him in such a dire situation. But he insists, shouting that she'll only be a hindrance and that she has to get away. Cecily is taken aback by his harsh words, momentarily frozen with indecision. She then turns and begins to run, and the spoiled noble watches her flee. The noble boy grabs her arm, convincing her to come with him to get help. He argues that they'll only get in the way, and that they need to call for reinforcements immediately. The girl nods in agreement, and the two of them sprint away to find help. Meanwhile, our hero is left to face the magical beast, which now seems even stronger than before. The creature lunges at him with full force, and the battle reignites with renewed intensity. The monster roars at the protagonist, calling him a fool for daring to face it alone. But Xavier remains unfazed, readying his sword to defend against the attack. The monster charges at the protagonist, who braces for the impact of the blow. The creature slams into him with its full body weight, sending him flying. Xavier tells himself that no matter how many times the monster revives, he will keep on fighting. He then formulates a plan to lure the creature deeper into the forest to finish it for good. The protagonist sprints into the dense woods, and the monster pursues him without hesitation. He grumbles about the obstacles in his path, realizing it's difficult to even outrun the beast. The creature strikes at him with its tail, but our hero manages to dodge the blow by a hair's breadth. The monster continues its relentless pursuit, crashing through everything in its way. The boy realizes he can't escape and prepares for another clash. He thinks that at this rate, it's only a matter of time before he's completely overwhelmed. The creature swipes at him with its claws, but Xavier manages to block with his sword. With gritted teeth, he prepares for the monster's next relentless assault. The protagonist notices the monster is even more powerful since regenerating and wonders about the reason. With a deft sword strike, he parries another attack and continues the grueling fight. The shockwaves from their blows cause massive destruction throughout the dark and gloomy forest. Though exhausted, the protagonist declares he won't give up and continues to fight valiantly. The monster opens its massive maw and tries to swallow our hero whole, without mercy. In a quick move, Xavier scoops up a handful of dirt and flings it into the creature's mouth as a distraction. He yells for the creature to keep this, and uses the opportunity to gain a precious few seconds. The dirt hits its mark, and the monster is momentarily stunned by the surprise tactic. The protagonist realizes he can't defeat the monster with conventional attacks, and needs a better plan. He had wanted to keep his magic a secret from the spoiled noble, but the situation has become desperate. The boy decides that if he perishes here, nothing else will matter, so he must use his magic. He glances back, assuming Cecily and the noble have made it safely out of the forest by now. With that, the protagonist stops running and prepares to unleash his magical abilities. Suddenly, he finds himself at the edge of a steep cliff, with nowhere left to retreat from the monster. The creature corners him, and he realizes he can't fall back any further. He has to fight with everything he has. Xavier mutters that he can barely use low-level spells, but he'll have to make do. A large fireball materializes in his hand as he prepares for his final attack. With a war cry, he hurls the spell with all his strength directly at the creature. The fireball slams into the creature's open mouth, causing a massive fiery explosion. The monster is consumed by the flames, and our protagonist watches the scene intently. A thick cloud of smoke billows from the spot, and Xavier braces for what might come next. With a triumphant grin, he shouts that his attack successfully defeated the magical beast. But suddenly the ground beneath his feet begins to tremble and then completely shatter. The protagonist loses his footing and plummets from the cliff along with the crumbling rock. The cliff edge gives way entirely, and our heroes helplessly toward the bottom of the chasm. In desperation, he yells that this can't be happening and claws at the air for something to grab, but it's no use. He wonders if this is how Homida's end, after everything he's been through, and after being given a second chance. The boy thinks it's cruelly ironic to perish like this just when he had a new opportunity. He refuses to accept such a tragic fate and resolves that he will not go down like this. His eyes ignite with an intense blue light as he prepares to use his last resort. A large magic circle forms around him, and a brilliant light illuminates the entire forest. Far in the distance, Cecily and the spoiled noble see the light and are stunned by the phenomenon. The Count's son cries out in fear, unable to comprehend the mysterious light in the middle of the night. Cecily shouts the protagonist's name, deeply concerned for his safety. She prays that he is safe, watching the intense light with a glimmer of hope in her eyes. As he falls, our hero experiences flashbacks of his past life as a solitary knight. He recalls epic battles and the hardships he faced throughout his journey. The protagonist sees himself surrounded by monsters, preparing for yet another mortal combat. He then finds himself floating in a golden void, a look of confusion on his face. The boy doesn't understand what is happening and simply observes the surreal scenery around him. He remembers his fallen comrades and the devastation caused by the war against the demons. The MC faces his final battle against the Demon King all alone with no one to aid him. He wonders if his life is flashing before his eyes and if this is truly his end. The protagonist then accepts that it's all over and that he has lost his second chance. He had spent more than 20 years of his life fighting and sacrificing for a greater cause. But with renewed determination, he declares that he will not give up. He will protect everyone. Back in the present, he crashes to the bottom of the cliff, landing hard on the ground. The protagonist lies on the ground, battered and bruised, but alive and ready for what comes next. The protagonist awakens, wondering if he's actually still alive after such a long fall. He struggles to his feet, trying to figure out where on earth he has ended up. The boy feels a sharp pain in his hand and realizes he was badly injured in the fall. Looking down, he panics upon seeing his leg is in a terrible condition. A cry of agony echoes through the area as our hero braces for the worst. He rips a piece of his clothing and fashions a makeshift bandage to stem the bleeding. Xavier assesses that the wounds are only superficial and that he should be able to walk out soon. Suddenly, he looks up and notices something incredibly strange about the night sky. The boy is confused. He fell from a cliff, yet he can clearly see a ceiling just above him. He once again wonders where he is and how he ended up in this bizarre place. Lying on the ground, he stares at the ceiling, trying to comprehend the illogical situation. His stomach rumbles loudly and our hero realizes he's starving. He gets up and begins searching for anything that could possibly be eaten. The protagonist glances at the corpse of the monster he defeated and gets a rather disgusting idea. With hunger clouding his judgment, he considers eating the creature's flesh to survive. But he quickly recoils from the idea, shouting that monster meat is not fit for human consumption. 3 days pass and our hero remains trapped at the bottom of the chasm, utterly alone. Famished and weak, he knows he will perish if he doesn't find something to eat soon. Lying on the ground, he looks over at the monster's carcass, and the desperate idea returns to his mind. He knows eating the creature's flesh might finish him off, but the hunger is overpowering. The protagonist admits he never resorted to this in his past life, but now he has no other choice. With immense effort, he drags himself toward the monster's body to retrieve a piece of its meat. The boy then reaches out, preparing to do whatever is necessary to survive. He touches the creature's hide, steeling himself for what might be his final meal. With a look of revulsion, he mutters that he never imagined he'd be kept alive by a monster. The MC tears off a piece of flesh and forces it down with an expression of pure agony. He chews the raw meat, his eyes rolling back as if he's on the verge of collapsing. Suddenly, a strange energy begins to surge through his entire body with overwhelming force. The protagonist screams in pain as his body starts to undergo a bizarre and agonizing transformation. His teeth begin to lengthen and sharpen like the fangs of a wild, ravenous beast. With grim determination, he tells himself he will do whatever it takes to survive here. He refuses to perish in this place and vows to live on, no matter the cost. The protagonist gasps in pain but continues to fight against the transformation with all his might. After some time, the pain finally subsides, and he collapses to the ground, exhausted but relieved to have survived. He gets back up, using a branch as a crutch to help him walk and find a way out of the pit. The boy wonders how many days have passed since he fell into this place. He estimates it's been about 3 days and begins the difficult task of climbing out of the hole. Leaning on the branch for support, he continues his determined ascent toward freedom. He wonders why his father and the others haven't been able to find this place at all. The protagonist realizes he can only rely on himself and pushes forward on his journey out. With a resolute expression, he moves onward, facing the darkness and the unknown. Suddenly, a mysterious voice asks about his leg and if it has stopped hurting. The boy is startled and stops in his tracks, trying to locate the source of the voice. He shouts, demanding to know who's there, preparing for a potential confrontation. The voice then warns him that if he doesn't treat his wounds soon, he will surely perish there. He yells for the voice to reveal itself, but it simply beckons him closer so it can heal him. The voice then claims it's the only one who can lead him out of the abyss, and a light appears to guide him. The protagonist senses that the concentration of magic here is incredibly high and realizes he is in the abyss. The voice urges him on, saying that if he wishes to live, he should hurry. The boy grumbles at the voice's impatience but decides to follow the light and see where it leads. He then begins to follow the trail of light through the dark and unfamiliar forest ahead. Tired and breathless, our hero continues his journey in search of the owner of the mysterious voice. A bright light momentarily blinds him, and he shields his eyes to see clearly. He then makes out the silhouette of a radiant woman who congratulates him on making the right choice. The protagonist is struck by the sight, his eyes reflecting the intense light. The woman reveals herself fully and he realizes she is a giant living stone statue. The statue introduces herself as Erd, one of the three fates who oversees the world tree. The boy's jaw drops as he processes the fact that gods are real in this world. The goddess then casts a healing spell in the protagonist's direction to aid him. The magic envelopes his leg, and the wound begins to close instantly in a miraculous fashion. The protagonist is astonished to see his leg completely restored by the goddess's magic. The goddess then shifts into a human form and approaches the boy to speak with him. With an imposing stance, she asks for our hero's name, though he regards her with suspicion. The MC challenges her, saying that if she is truly a goddess, she should already know his name. The goddess scoffs, annoyed, retorting that her specialty is combat, not memorizing the names of mortals. The boy realizes that gods aren't as omnipotent as he thought, and the goddess presses on. She explains that the world tree has fallen gravely ill, and she is tending to its roots to save it. The goddess complains that she'd much rather be sunbathing but is stuck living like a sewer rat down here. She then asks if the protagonist understands the situation, and he confirms he's heard the legend of the tree. The world tree connects the celestial, terrestrial, and human realms, symbolizing life and eternity. Satisfied with his answer, the goddess asks for his name again, and this time he replies Xavier Benedict. She then proposes a deal, and our hero is taken aback by the unexpected offer. The goddess offers him her power in exchange for his help in investigating the cause of the tree's sickness. The protagonist remains wary, wondering why a goddess would offer up her powers so readily. She explains that the chance of a magic swordsman like him stumbling upon this place is nearly zero, and she cannot let the opportunity pass. She adds that she detected his secret because she, too, is hiding something from the world. The goddess reveals she has been trapped in this place for 26 years and is utterly bored. The protagonist is stunned, as that was the exact age he was in his previous life. The goddess's eyes widen in realization. She sees that this is the boy's second life and regards him seriously. She warns him that his soul is tainted with resentment, which will hinder him from using his full power. Xavier asks what she means, and the goddess explains that she can see the state of his soul. In a burst of anger, he shouts, demanding to know why the gods abandoned humanity to perish in the war. The goddess calmly explains that gods and humans are simply different races, they are not saviors. She advises him to focus on becoming strong himself instead of relying on help from others. The goddess tells him to ponder her words and dismisses him to reflect on everything. With a sphere of light in her hand, she prepares to send him back to his original world. She imbues the sphere with the minimum necessary knowledge, telling him he must learn the rest on his own. The protagonist stands in silence, processing all the information he has just received. The goddess informs him that his arrival here was guided by destiny, and he must accept it. With a final touch, the goddess sends him away, and he returns to his world in the blink of an eye. The goddess admits she doesn't know his exact landing point, but is confident he'll find his way home. She then bids him farewell as our hero prepares to step back into his world through the portal. The protagonist sets foot on solid ground and turns to hear the goddess's final words. She wishes for destiny to protect him and hopes he will hear his parents' voices when he awakens. The boy remains silent, processing the goddess's words and steeling himself for what lies ahead. He then turns and walks toward the portal of light to return to his world. The portal seals shut and our hero vanishes, leaving the abyss and the goddess behind. The scene cuts to a beautiful landscape of mountains and forests under a sunny sky. On a massive tree in the heart of the woods, a portal of golden light begins to materialize. The light intensifies and the portal swings wide open, revealing what lies within. Our protagonist is unceremoniously ejected from the portal, landing face first on the ground. He hits the ground awkwardly and lies sprawled on the grass, completely disoriented. With leaves tangled in his hair, he celebrates finally being free from that strange place. The boy scrambles to his feet and wonders where in the world he has ended up. Suddenly, he hears a noise and shouts defensively for whoever is there not to approach. He then hears cries for help and realizes someone is in trouble nearby in the forest. The goddess's voice whispers in his mind, advising him to try jumping to see what happens. The protagonist is confused, wondering how he can still hear her voice after leaving the abyss. The voice explains it's merely a message the goddess embedded for him before he left. She instructs him to focus his consciousness into his legs and leap to the top of the tree in a single bound. The boy agrees to try and prepares to use the power the goddess has granted him. He concentrates the energy in his legs, coiling for a massive jump. With a powerful burst, our hero launches himself toward the top of the tree. He soars upward at incredible speed, ricocheting off branches to gain even more height. The protagonist lands firmly on a branch and prepares for the next leap in his ascent. With a yelp of surprise, he grabs onto another branch, nearly losing his balance in the process. He uses his newfound strength to steady himself and continues his climb toward the treetop. The boy is amazed at how effortlessly he scaled the colossal tree. He realizes his body feels as light as a feather and wonders if this is the goddess's power. The voice then informs him that his vision has also been enhanced, and the more he uses the power, the stronger it will become. From the top of the tree, he hears the cries for help again and uses enhanced sight to locate the source. He spots a group of people beneath another giant tree in the middle of the forest. It was 3 burly men cornering a little girl, and Xavier instantly recognizes them as scoundrels. A grin spreads across his face as he decides they'll be the perfect subjects to test his new abilities. The protagonist nimbly leaps between branches, closing the distance to intervene. He drops down from the tree, ready to strike the villains and save the defenseless girl. Xavier decides to take out the largest one first to immediately disrupt the group's confidence. The brute with the hammer is completely oblivious, his back turned to the impending attack. With a flying kick, our hero strikes the big man squarely in the head with immense force. The other 2 are stunned by the surprise attack, demanding to know who the kid is. The protagonist then snatches a rock from the ground, preparing for his next move. He imbues the stone with energy and hurls it with great force at one of the villains. The rock smacks the man in the face, and he cries out in pain from the sharp impact. Xavier mockingly asks if the villain is all right, and the man sputters that his face was just hit. The last brute becomes infuriated, demanding to know who the hell this meddling kid is. The protagonist retorts that he doesn't need to explain himself to scum who prey on the weak. The brute becomes enraged, swearing he will destroy the boy for hurting his brother. The 2 remaining villains glare at him with hatred, preparing to attack our hero with everything they have. They then charge at the protagonist, screaming that he's going to meet his end right there. With a confident smirk, Xavier braces for the fight against the 2 thugs. The villain with the sword swings wildly, but our hero dodges the powerful blow with ease. The 2 are astonished by the boy's speed, wondering where he vanished. The protagonist reappears beside the other villain, striking him with a precise blow to the stomach. The man gasps in pain and collapses to the ground, defeated by the surprise attack. The villain's sword clatters to the ground, and our hero swiftly picks it up for the ensuing battle. With a weapon in hand, he feels more confident and readies himself for the next round. Xavier closes the distance at blinding speed, rushing toward the last standing brute. The villain is shocked by the boy's velocity and can barely react in time. The protagonist strikes him with the pommel of the sword, disarming him in a swift, fluid motion. He then presses the blade to the villain's throat, ordering him to hand over all his valuables. The villain's sword falls to the dirt, and the protagonist looks down on him with an air of superiority. The brute begs for his life, but Xavier orders him to apologize to the little girl instead. The villain hastily throws a pouch of money in front of the girl, stammering an apology for the trouble. He claims he was only doing it because he has a family to support and pleads for forgiveness. But our hero coldly informs him it's far too late to use the family excuse to save his skin. With a lightning-fast movement, the protagonist lunges, and the villain flinches in terror. Xavier lands a precise strike on the brute's leg, who howls in pain from the wound. The villain collapses with his leg injured, and our hero regards him with an icy stare. The man whines that the boy broke his promise, but Xavier tells him to be grateful he's still breathing. With a menacing glare, the protagonist warns him to shut his mouth if he doesn't want to perish right here. The brute is terrified and clamps his hands over his mouth, afraid of uttering another word. Our hero then picks up the pouch of money the villain dropped and inspects its contents. He remarks that it's not bad and that he now has enough funds to make his way home. The boy reflects that the encounter felt more like a robbery than a rescue. He then turns and notices the little girl is trembling, clearly terrified by the ordeal. He extends a hand to her, and she looks up at him with a mix of surprise and admiration. The protagonist reassures her, saying that no one else will harm her now. With a gentle smile, he offers his help, promising to escort her home safely. The little girl blushes, looking at him with bright, grateful eyes. She then takes our hero's hand, accepting his offer of help. Suddenly, a green aura envelopes both of them, and a warm energy flows into his body. Xavier feels his pain vanishing and wonders if the little girl is a healer. He is stunned by the possibility and stares at her in disbelief. The boy knows that healers are exceptionally rare and valuable, even among the most powerful mages. He deduces that the bandit's true target was the girl, and they likely have more companions nearby. Abruptly, he hears a noise and realizes more bandits are approaching. He tells the little girl to follow him, and the two begin to run, fleeing from the villains. The protagonist searches for a secure place to hide and protect the girl from the pursuing bandits. He knows he cannot allow such a valuable asset to fall into the hands of criminals. The two race through the forest, seeking a hiding place to escape their pursuers. They dash across a river, continuing their desperate flight through the dense, dark woods. The protagonist uses his magic to create a diversion, throwing the bandits off their trail. The two manage to escape and find a safe spot to hide and catch their breath. Xavier tells her that he erased their tracks and they should be safe from danger for now. The little girl then asks for his name, looking up at him with curious eyes. He introduces himself as Xavier Benedict and asks for her name with a kind smile. With a small smile, she introduces herself as Tifa Roman, and our hero is taken aback by the name. He repeats her name, then suddenly stands up as if a memory has struck him. The boy realizes her name is familiar and connects it to her profession as a healer. He then has a flashback of his friend Sharon Roman, the greatest swordsman in the Empire. The protagonist asks if she has an older brother, and she confirms his suspicion. He is shocked to realize he has just saved the younger sister of his best friend from his past life. The two light a campfire and rest under the moonlight as they talk. Xavier recalls a conversation with Sharon about his missing sister, Tafana. Back then, he had promised his friend that he would find his sister and bring her back. He gently ruffles her hair and promises that he will take her home safely. The protagonist says he will find her brother and ensure she returns home unharmed. Night falls and an owl watches over their makeshift camp in the middle of the forest. The little girl sleeps soundly while our hero keeps watch, protecting her. He then calls out to the goddess's voice, and she responds to his call immediately. Xavier asks her to teach him how to use the power she granted him, and the voice agrees to help. The voice says they will begin with the dagger he took from the bandit. She explains that the dagger is not just a weapon but also a conduit for controlling magical power. The voice instructs him to focus his magic in the dagger, teaching him a special skill called Shadow Sting. The key to this technique is not brute force but precision and control. The dagger glows with a blue aura as our hero prepares to test his new ability. The voice encourages him to try the magic at once, and he positions himself before a tree. With a sharp cry, the protagonist focuses and prepares to strike with the dagger. He then attacks the tree with the new skill, and the dagger pierces the wood effortlessly. The strike is so precise that it creates a perfect, clean hole in the tree's trunk. The tip of the dagger glows with an intense blue light, and our hero is amazed by its power. The tree then disintegrates into pieces, and the protagonist is shocked by the destruction he caused. He wonders if he was truly the one who did that and stares at the dagger in astonishment. The goddess's voice then bids him farewell, explaining that the knowledge will soon fade from his memory. Suddenly, the little girl wakes up and asks what our hero is doing in the darkness. Xavier senses a presence approaching and prepares for a potential confrontation. The little girl calls him brother, and he turns to shield her from the approaching danger. He scoops her up into his arms, telling her to stay quiet until he gives the signal so they don't draw attention. The protagonist looks up, using his enhanced vision to find a secure spot. He then leaps to the top of a tree with the girl in his arms to hide from their enemies. Our hero lands on a branch and prepares to observe what is happening down below. He instructs her not to move and to conceal her presence so they won't be discovered. The two remain silent, watching a group of people approach their location. The protagonist spots 5 men and realizes they are the bandits who were pursuing them. He notes that these 5 appear to be far more formidable than the trio he faced earlier. One of the bandits says he is certain he heard something and continues to scan the area. Another bandit points to the destroyed tree, calling it to his companion Kaito's attention. They deduce that the noise was caused by an explosion and that someone must be close. From his perch, our hero smirks, realizing the bandit leader is quite perceptive. The chief states that whoever took the healer must still be nearby, though one of his henchmen is skeptical. The leader then places his hand on the ground, using an ability to sense magical residue. He announces that he can feel the healer's presence and that the ground is still warm from their campfire. The protagonist is impressed by the bandit chief's advanced tracking skills. The leader then orders one of his men, Jimmy, to track down the fugitives. With a wicked grin, Jimmy agrees to the task, and our hero knows the situation has just gotten serious. The bandit then uses a tracking spell to pinpoint their exact location. He casts the spell, and a trail of yellow light begins to follow the path they took. The light snakes its way up the tree where the protagonist and the little girl are hiding. Xavier realizes they were being tracked the entire time and readies himself for a fight. He knows these men are stronger than the last group, but he is determined to fight to the end. He recalls facing down demonic beasts and tells himself he won't be defeated by common thugs. The tracking magic ascends the tree and erupts in a golden flash at the top. The bandit Jimmy sees the light and alerts his companions that he's found the duo's hiding spot. With a malevolent smile, he points to the top of the tree and prepares for their assault. The bandit leader then calls over another of his men, Bob, and orders him to check it out. With an axe in hand, the brute agrees and approaches the tree to attack. Our hero observes that the bandits lack tactical coordination, moving one by one. Bob reaches the base of the tree and bellows for the little rat to come out of hiding immediately. He then begins hacking at the tree with his axe, intending to chop it down and send them falling. The brute continues to strike the tree trunk with relentless force. Leaves and branches rain down with each powerful blow as the bandit continues his assault. He screams for our hero to show himself and continues to demolish the tree. With a smirk, the protagonist thinks that everything is unfolding exactly as he planned. Minutes earlier, he had seen the bandits using tracking magic to find them. With a plan in mind, he had created a sphere of water to mislead the villains. He knew that simple tracking spells could be easily deceived with a decoy water source. The Dark Knight was also the perfect cover to set a trap and ambush the bandits. He had then coated a different tree with water magic to lure the villains to the wrong location. With his trap set, he prepared to take out one of the bandits before being discovered. The water on the tree explodes, and our hero prepares to unleash his magic on the brute. A large bubble of water forms above the bandit, who is completely unaware of what's happening. With a wicked smile, the protagonist employs the same technique he used to teach the young noble a lesson. He then decides to test the true strength of this brute with his water magic. The water bubble drops onto the bandit, ensnaring him in a suffocating aquatic trap. The brute panics and struggles to break free, but the magic is too powerful for him. He cries out for help, wondering how he can possibly escape the deadly water bubble. From the treetop, our hero scoffs at the bandit's weakness and inability to defend himself. The protagonist notes that this brute is no different from the fools he dealt with earlier. He then attacks the trapped bandit with his dagger, landing a precise and decisive blow. The brute is struck and collapses to the ground, defeated by the combination of magic and physical attack. The bandit leader notices the noise has stopped and grows suspicious of the sudden silence. He wonders what Bob is doing and why he abruptly stopped chopping down the tree. One of his henchmen suggests their opponent might be a magic user, and the chief grows more concerned. He knows that if that's true, Bob would be completely outmatched. The leader then decides to investigate himself, and the others agree to follow. The group of bandits hurries toward the tree to see what happened to their companion. When they arrive, they find the partially chopped tree and a large puddle of water, but no sign of Bob. They wonder where Bob could have gone and scan the area for any clues. One of the bandits is baffled by the scene, unable to comprehend what happened to his friend. They are confused by the water as it hasn't rained and there's no river nearby. The bandit Jimmy cautiously approaches the puddle of water to analyze it more closely. He senses that the situation is very unusual and dips his fingers into the water. Suddenly, an electric current surges through his body, and he screams in agony from the shock. The bandit collapses to the ground, twitching, and his companions cry out his name in desperation. The group of bandits is stunned by what just happened and braces for whatever comes next. The leader yells that the water is trapped and warns his men to be careful. Abruptly, a rock is hurled at high speed toward the group of bandits. Someone shouts a warning about the surprise attack coming from behind them. The bandits manage to dodge the volley of rocks and prepare for the enemy's next move. The leader realizes they are under attack and prepares to retaliate with his own skills. He concentrates magic into his hand, preparing to cast a fire spell. With a blast of light, he obliterates one of the rocks that was launched at them. The explosion illuminates the forest, and the bandit chief realizes they are facing multiple assailants. He analyzes the trajectory of the attacks and understands they're being targeted from various directions. One of the henchmen suggests they search the area, but the leader immediately rejects the idea. He knows that if they separate, they will walk right into their unknown enemy's trap. With a hidden smile, our hero thinks that it's far too late for them to figure out his plan. The chief curses, realizing that with Jimmy incapacitated, they can no longer use tracking magic. The henchmen ask what they should do now, and the leader forms a new plan. With a fireball blazing in his hand, he declares that the solution is simple and prepares to act. With the fireball in hand, he threatens to burn down the entire forest if his enemies don't reveal themselves. He calls them sewer rats, and vows to destroy everything unless they show their faces. Suddenly, a voice tells him to wait, and our hero casually steps out from behind a bush. With a disarming smile and a wave, he approaches the bandits as if he's just a passerby. The boy claims he was just gathering herbs, and is heading home to avoid any trouble. The leader accuses him of taking down Bob, but the protagonist feigns ignorance. The chief doesn't buy his story and yells that he must have accomplices hiding nearby. Xavier then says he did see someone earlier and offers to tell them if they let him go. The leader grins, remarking that the boy is clever and might even be a good fit for their crew. But our hero declines the offer, stating that his parents are waiting for him at home. The chief's patience wears thin, and he attacks the boy with a blast of fire to force the truth out of him. The protagonist dodges the attack with surprising ease and prepares to counter. The bolt of fire flies past him and strikes a tree directly behind him. The leader is stunned by the boy's speed, unable to comprehend how he evaded the attack. Xavier vanishes in the blink of an eye, and the bandits frantically look around, wondering where he went. The protagonist decides to target the henchmen first, using his water magic against them. He ensnares them in a bubble of water, and the bandit leader becomes enraged at the sight. The two bandits are trapped, unable to break free from our hero's aquatic prison. The chief hurls a fireball at the bubble in an attempt to free his men. The fire magic strikes the bubble dead on, but the henchmen are caught in the resulting explosion of steam. The water instantly vaporizes, and the bandits are essentially cooked alive by the combination of magic. The protagonist knew that fire mages tend to be reckless and used that trait to his advantage. The two bandits collapse to the ground defeated, and our hero readies himself for the final round. Xavier taunts the leader, remarking that it's just what you'd expect from a fire mage, acting without thinking. The chief is infuriated by the provocation and swears he will eliminate the boy no matter what. He then unleashes a powerful torrent of fire toward our hero with all his strength. The protagonist uses the same absorption technique to handle the attack while preparing his counter. Xavier evades the flames and closes the distance to the bandit leader at incredible speed. With a swift movement, he gets within striking range of the chief, ready for the final blow. Our hero then draws his dagger and attacks the bandit leader with a precise strike. With the blade in hand, our hero prepares for the final showdown against the bandit leader. The chief is shocked to see that the boy is also a skilled swordsman, not just a mage. The protagonist states that he dislikes harming people, but makes an exception for villains like him. He then warns the leader that since he has discovered his secret, he will not be leaving this forest alive. The bandit realizes the boy is a greater prize than the healer and prepares to capture him instead. He launches a fireball at Xavier, but the boy is ready to counter the attack. The protagonist uses his water magic to neutralize the bandit leader's fire spell. Water and fire collide in a massive explosion of steam and energy in the midst of the battle. The chief is astonished to see his fire magic completely extinguished by the boy's water spell. Our hero then charges forward with his dagger, preparing to strike the bandit leader. The dagger glows with a blue aura, and the chief braces himself to defend against the imminent blow. The two face off, the tension in the air palpable as they prepare for their final clash. The protagonist strikes with his dagger, and the leader parries with his flaming gauntlets. The impact of their attacks creates a massive explosion, throwing both of them backward. The bandit leader feels a burning sensation in his hand and realizes he severely underestimated the boy's power. He acknowledges that the boy's skill is impressive enough to rival that of a seasoned warrior. The leader then declares that the chariot is over and concentrates a massive amount of fire in his hands. He unleashes a powerful fire blast toward our hero with all his might. The protagonist observes the attack, preparing to defend against the villain's fire magic. The chief screams for the boy to perish and launches an even more intense torrent of fire at him. Our hero leaps into the air, dodging the attack with a stunning acrobatic flip. He then uses his water magic to conjure a shield, protecting himself from the flames. Water and fire clash once more in a spectacular battle of elements in the forest. The resulting explosion of steam and energy momentarily blinds the bandit leader. He frantically searches for the boy amidst the smoke and fire, wondering where he went. The chief assumes the protagonist was incinerated by his fire magic and lets out a triumphant laugh. But our hero appears directly behind him, poised for the final blow of the fight. With his dagger in hand, he strikes the bandit leader with a precise and fatal blow. The strike lands squarely in the villain's chest, and he cries out in agony from the deep wound. The bandit chief collapses to the ground, in disbelief that he was defeated by a mere boy. The bandit leader falls to his knees, and our hero looks down on him with an air of superiority. He then withdraws the dagger from the villain's chest, and the man falls to the ground, lifeless. With a cold gaze, the protagonist states that this is the fitting end for a kidnapper like him. Atop the tree, the little girl prays, hoping that our hero will emerge from the fight alive. Xavier then climbs the tree and finds her safe and sound, waiting anxiously for him. He apologizes for the delay, explaining that he took care of all the scoundrels who were after her. The little girl is amazed, telling him he's incredible for defeating all those bandits. Protagonist dismisses it as luck and says they need to leave before any reinforcements arrive. The girl promises she will not reveal his secret to anyone and that he can trust her completely.